Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. The Catalyst webinar series is a bi-weekly educational platform for creating success and change in your club and career. We're very excited to have President of the Southern California section, Eric Lohman. We all know Eric. He has a storied career of service in governance, both at the Metro chapter level and the section. He is halfway through his 2-year presidency. He's also the GM. His day job is he's the GM and Director of Instruction at Monarch Beach Golf Links in Dana Point. And he's joining us this morning, similar to what we did with Craig Kessler a couple of weeks ago from the SCGA. Now that we are rolling into 2024, it's nice to get our section leaders to kind of do a State of the Union in golf in Southern California as it pertains to the PGA member. There is a number of things that are taking place this year that haven't taken place in over 20 years, and Eric is the catalyst for a lot of that. And we're going to get right into it with some Q&A. And this is a very interactive catalyst, so please, you've got questions for Eric, please raise your hand. I'll be monitoring the chat box. I'll unmute you. We want to make these as interactive as possible. A lot of the names that are on this morning's webcast are regular supporters of the Catalyst, and we thank you for that. So feel free to jump in, ask some questions. We pre-polled the Education Committee, the Board of Directors, and key staff members from the section to put together some questions for Eric. So we're going to get right into it. Eric, State of the Union, golf in Southern California as it pertains to the PGA member.
Well, first off, John, thank you very much for having me here this morning. And obviously I can just speak on behalf of the membership and the associates and anyone else who's had a chance to jump on this Catalyst over the years, that we just appreciate what you do and how you do it, and to provide us this educational opportunity. And I have to apologize to everybody in advance that they unfortunately have to listen to me today, as compared to someone else who might know a little bit more about something more particular. But just an honor to be here, and an honor to serve the section, the Southern California PGA, something that's been near and dear to me for many, many years. Obviously, I joined the section in the late 1990s, became a member in 2000, and have served in some capacity pretty much from day one. Not for any other particular reason other than I just wanted to be engaged, and I wanted to be involved. And I've always felt like being engaged and being involved just allowed me to better understand what opportunities were out there, and how to really just take advantage of what the Southern California PGA and the staff, and even what the National Association could do for me. And so my servitude is really not nothing too secretive. It's just more so my ability and opportunity to just be as, like I said, as engaged and involved as much as possible, just so that it can benefit my career and the clubs that I've worked at.
And the first year of your presidency, 2023, you want to recap it? Highs, lows, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, your perspective on your first year of your presidency.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, John. Obviously, when you get into governance and you get on a board, and then you become an executive committee member like I have, it's not like, you can look at it as like year one and year two, and what happens, in those years, and, what can you hang your hat on and such. But, I look at it as more like a continuation of many people who have served before me in this capacity. And all we're doing is just kind of pushing forward ideas, initiatives, the strategic plan. And then again, like those who follow me, like Dr. Kurt and yourself, it'll be just more of a continuation of the bigger picture. It's just really not about one individual or one officer. It's literally just a continuation of our efforts to provide services and opportunities for the members and associates. With that being said, I do think that each person has maybe some poignant direction for the staff. And this year, or the board, and this year, this past year, I think some of the highlights that I really am pleased about, and again, it's not like a completed effort. It's just the start of something, or we augmented something that had already started in the past. But yeah, two things that are near and dear to me is our efforts with recruitment, and retention and engagement. We've made a concerted effort to sort of roll up some committees and engage the engagement committee so that we can provide more for our members and be a better resource for them. We identified a need several years ago that there weren't enough members and associates in the pipeline. There weren't enough new associates in the pipeline for us as operators and managers of facilities to really truly have the best recruiting efforts that we needed to backfill some of our positions. So again, what we saw in 2023 is that there are now more members in our section than had been in years past, at least the recent, say, 5 to 7 years, and we have more associates. So that's a positive thing for me. And there's many people that we can thank for that, including all the folks that are in that committee, and Ed Winnicki and what the PGA of America has done for us as well. I also believe that one of our highlights was coming out of COVID, and now that we're back into sort of the new normal, which is sort of a blend between COVID lifestyle and pre-COVID practices, we're starting to see really record levels of engagement. And by engagement, I just mean, participation and satisfaction. We have more people signing up for the education and the golf events and the camaraderie and the networking things that we do. And then when you survey them about their satisfaction, like the California Teaching and Coaching Summit, for example, those surveys are coming back with better, satisfaction scores or net promoter scores. So again, we're engaging more people, and the people who are engaged are enjoying themselves even more. And I would just have to say, like, a great testament to what we're doing and how we're accomplishing things would be the section championship that we had, the men's section championship, which we hosted at Sherwood Country Club, which was a special treat for all of us who participated, especially for Michael Block, who won. I mean, I think that's the culmination of that enjoyment. And then the women's section championship that we hosted at the Club of Montecito. These were like record number of participants in our major golf events. And then if you go, again, if you just look at like the fun that we had at the California Teaching and Coaching Summit, how that's become literally the number one of those types of events in the country, excluding potentially the one that the PGA of America puts on in Orlando. And there's some that debate that ours is better than theirs. And that's a big thing that I take some pride in, but I share that pride with all of the committees and all of the board members and section staff. And then I do want to refer to or speak to the efforts of the DE&I committee. And obviously recruitment and retention is important for us, and so is our reputation as members of PGA members and participants in the Southern California PGA. It was identified many years ago by presidents and board members that even the board and even our membership didn't quite reflect what we witnessed at our clubs who were playing golf, whether it was the percentage of females or minorities. And we made a concerted effort to try harder to recruit all those like people into our association. And I think we've had some success. And now, as we've created the D&I committee, and we've gotten buy-in from the board and buy-in from section staff, we've expanded those opportunities. And this year, one of the great things that we're going to do in 2024 is we're introducing the SCPGA lead program, which is just a great opportunity for those who want to serve in governance, those who want to be in front of the room, those who want to volunteer their time to help our foundation or to help out the folks with PGA Hope, those types of folks. This particular group, the cohort, the lead program is a great way for people who either don't quite know like what goes on and they just like to learn a little bit more, or those who just need an extra push or the assistance to make sure that they're doing the right thing so that one day they can sit in our chairs, which is what we want, because we want to push this message and our efforts forward. So I'd have to say, like, at a quick answer, those are the things that I'm most proud of from last year.
Well, we talk about this all the time. I've had these conversations with Tom Sargent and Tom Addis, and even at the national level, every president seems to have one theme or one mantra that kind of guides their presidency. And Tom Sargent, it was the sale of the PGA, the Southern California Golf Show, to the PGA National, which became the PGA Show. And of course, Tony Latendre, it was smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. And with Robin Shelton, it was the pandemic aftermath and the return to the new normal. And I agree with you. I think the theme of your presidency so far, being a fellow board member with you, is engagement. And I think there's a theme between our associateship and our membership being higher than it's been in several years. I think that our engagement is following suit with what young professionals need. I mean, mentorship is more important now than it's ever been. Engagement's more important now than it's ever been. The associates need support. That self-starter, here it is, go get it, associateship, formerly the apprenticeship, doesn't really exist anymore without the helping hands of the members that support their associates. And I think there's a grasp on that now that there wasn't necessarily an emphasis on as much in years past. And so kudos to you for that. What are some of your goals for 2024?
I mean, as you can imagine, there's a couple that are outlying, but I mean, on the most important thing is just to continue to, like you just mentioned, to continue to push some of the strategies that we put in place. To continue to see those numbers increase, whether it comes with in regards to participation of our events. The way of the approach that I take, and it's not dissimilar to how I run Monarch or how I've tried to run other places. It's like with a humble manner and with some enjoyment and fun, we're trying to create an environment for success, and we're doing that by listening to people and being smart about what we do, and just really trying to improve the things that we currently do well, but keep pushing that improvement mantra. And if there are things that we don't do well, or if we hear from like our members or our guests, or in this case our members or associates, that there's things that we're missing, or we're not really addressing correctly, or there's ways for us to address them more appropriately, then the opportunity lies for us to go ahead and do that. So my goals in 2024, and this is very cliche-ish, is to leave the section as the president better than I found it, which is the truth, which is also an incredibly hard challenge, because the people who were in my position before me, like Robin Shelton, Tony Latendre, Todd Kiefer, John McNair, Jeff Johnson, the past presidents, all had that same sort of goals in mind as well. So on a macro level, it's that. And on a micro level, I do believe there is some great opportunity in the marketplace. And by the marketplace, the way I define it is, again, identifying your comp set. And in our case, our comp set is twofold. It's the PGA of America, and how do we compare to other sections within the country. And in our own market in Southern California, how is the SCPGA viewed, admired? What is our reputation compared to our allied associations? How strong is our presence? How strong is our voice in the Southern California golf landscape? So when you look at those two entities as a whole, my goal in 2024 is just to continue to analyze what the other sections in the country are doing, and see if we can steal some of their great ideas. And then how do we position ourselves so that as a section, we have the reputation, we just continue to push the reputation forward, that we are, if not the best section in the country, we're one of them, and we're leading all of these initiatives that we so forth desire. And then on the Southern California front, which I think is just sort of a reflection of a national effort with the PGA of America, I just want to make sure that as an association, as an entity of 1,500 strong PGA members and associates in Southern California, that we matter. And I know that we matter. because I don't second guess that there isn't anybody who works in our space in Southern California who doesn't believe they're not making a difference, because we do, and we know that. But where my goal is I want to make sure that the outliers, the people who are looking at us, but also looking at, you know, the other spaces in this, you know, the other people that are in the game, you know, I just want them to hold the PGA member at a higher regard. I don't think that we're always held at the highest regard. I think that we have a great reputation and we are held with some regard and some dignity. But I do believe that more effort needs to be made so that even those who don't quite understand how things are done, like whether it's, are we on the PGA Tour, are we the PGA of America, who makes the rules, who tells us what golf ball we got to use, who, you know, all these things. At the end of the day, if people can just think, if just a few more people can think that the PGA America really are the ones who make a difference, then I will leave this office in 2024 better than I found it, and I will accomplish all the goals that I had set forth before I started.
You know, I think you that rings true, because we talk about engagement in terms of membership and how that's helped our continuity, particularly at the national level. And we're getting into some fun questions. I think everybody could benefit from your take on Frisco and what that move has done for us as a national association and our culture. But in terms of continuity between a national set of goals, we talk about the North Stars that has evolved from the regional model, and the continuity that goes from the national level to the sectional level to the chapter level. And that's a focus that you have in your presidency, is having continuity amongst the chapters and some synergy that takes place between the section, so that we're all on the same sheet of music, so to speak. But can you elaborate a little bit on the benefits and the concerns you have about the move to Frisco and your take on the national meeting that just took place there back in November?
Yeah, thanks, John. You know, again, just if you go back like 7-8 years, even in my journey, you know, it's not like, you know, it's really hard to truly understand what the PGA of America does in their own efforts and how that supports us, or what they do that could generate revenue or income that could eventually come back and support us as they fund or help fund the section efforts. But the more you learn, or the more I learned about what National did or does, it just opened my eyes to, again, opportunities for us as members in the section, as me as a member of the PGA of America, but also opened up my eyes in regards to how the Southern California PGA could take advantage of the opportunities that are out there. And I think, you know, it's a testament that we're very fortunate to have had Tom Addis be involved with our section for as many years as he had. And it's very fortunate that now Nikki is the leader of our section, who also had worked under Tom for many years and had been a section employee even before this last time that she came back on board. But if you look at like John McNair now serving as the district director, when you have like this core group of people who all understand that the more involved we can get, the better we understand what National does, the more we can align the North Stars or the pillars of our efforts. There's just opportunity that arises, as compared to if we kind of were like a horse in a horse race and we had the blinders on, or if we didn't even realize we had blinders on, I think we would just be missing out on some opportunity. The thing with Frisco, I think, is it's like an incomplete question, if it's fair. You know, what I knew of National in Florida was not the most positive of things. There were things that were going on. There was a disconnect because it was on the East Coast. There was a way they managed things that might not have been the most fluid or appropriate to support us, if that was really their clear direction or what it should have been. I believe, though, that some of those obstacles have been broken down, again, by the efforts of like the board of directors like John McNair, and by national leaders that we have now in place, like a Don Ray, for example, Jim Richardson. I mean, these were change agents that went in there and disrupted the previous regimes and the way things were done. And then all of a sudden, everybody decides to move to Frisco. And, you know, not everybody has moved to Frisco. That's still like a 3 to 4 year transitional time frame. So I think the proper answer to that will happen once that really truly does happen and finalizes and completes, because it's still a discombobulated operation. I think personally, from my perspective, I still think we're too East Coast centric on certain things. I mean, the Winter Series is in Florida, and the national PGA shows in Florida. Yet we live way out here on the West Coast. That's not real convenient. But once things do really get into Frisco and they really do take advantage of that space, which, like I said, like you said, we were able to go in November. It is such an amazing place and such an opportunity for all our members. And again, it's 1 hour closer to us in the middle of the country, that there's so much more opportunity. It's an amazing looking place, whether it's the hotel, the teaching center, the practice facilities, our headquarters, the retail space they have. If you haven't seen it online, at least do that. At least watch some of the videos, and then at some point in your life, hopefully everyone has a chance to kind of go there, because unless I'm mistaken, they're going to be there for a long time. And a lot of that opportunity that exists, a lot of those people who are working for us out in the across the country are all kind of going to be, they're either working out of that space or they're eventually going to end up at that space. But again, I'm pleased to see that we've moved that direction. I'll be even more pleased to see how that all works out once it really does become a unified workforce based out of Frisco. And when they build out that community in Frisco and really start to take advantage of all those opportunities, I think it'll be neat for all of us as members, as you and I slide into the twilights of our career.
Whoa.
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 I mean, you're so young though. You still have another 20 years in you.
So, you touched on a good point there. Can you talk about, you have also reinvigorated and challenged our foundation efforts to go to the next level. Anthony Leone has been phenomenal in that regard. We're doing things with our partners and our sponsors that we haven't done in the past. Can you talk a little bit about the value from your perspective on sponsors and partnerships, and how that supports our foundation, and then also how we take action on that to further elevate the Southern California's efforts particularly with PGA Hope?
I mean, great. Two great questions, and I'm probably going to forget my answers, but on the foundational level, I mean, obviously, Anthony Leone coming to work for our section, I don't know, again, 5, 6, 7 years ago, he's sort of been, his efforts have been awesome. And then he's been directed to more be the foundational lead, or the foundation lead for the section. He's just like the right person for the job. He understands, at least in my perspective, right? He understands the whole objective of continual improvement, refining operations, and expanding scope and opportunity and accomplishment. And then obviously, Nikki, coming back on board and at the capacity that she has, I think she understands the importance of it. And then you have, Tony Latendre, the past president, who serves on a volunteer basis as the chairman of the foundation. And obviously there's many other people who support the foundation, but the foundation is one of those pillars of our section that, as it grows and gets better and bigger, and by that I just means it has more money in the coffers, it has more people feeding it, so that you can continue to do the things that you'd like to do. And as you gain the exposure across the Southern California golf landscape, we will be able to accomplish more things. Where you mentioned PGA Hope, that's a wonderful thing that started recently, at least the focus of the Southern California PGA through the last 3 or 4 years. But when you have the folks in our section like Amberlynn Dorsey, again, Tony or Anthony Leone and Nikki supporting it, that's just one of the great ways that our foundation can support golf on many levels. It's a very altruistic thing that we are doing. And it's growing exponentially. And by exponentially, I mean, if we've had 100 people in the pipeline that were taking advantage of PGA Hope the first couple of years, and I think this year we're estimating 1,500 military in Southern California are going to be able to enjoy and experience through the programming of PGA Hope. I mean, that's an incredible increase over a short amount of time. And I know that, speaking to Anthony and Amber and Nikki, our goals aren't just going to stop at that number either. And then when you look at the other things that our foundation does, John, which I think are incredibly important, and we're just like touching the surface, right? Whether it's helping disadvantaged communities, whether it's with golf clubs for the high school children or the students, the players. I mean, just think about the impact that potentially has on the game of golf and us in Southern California, or if it's helping disadvantaged youths in certain communities where golf isn't as easy for them to enjoy, or there aren't as many golf courses. Like I grew up in Palm Springs at Mission Hills Country Club. I was surrounded by opportunity, but that's like the rarity. And a lot of places there are only a few opportunities, and maybe they're not the most cost effective for everybody. And we're able, through grants and scholarships and support of other smaller foundations or golf courses or PGA members who are putting on programming, we're able to support those folks. And then obviously you look at the scholarships that we provide to kids, high school kids who have played the game, come up through the ranks of our junior program, and are now looking to go to college and either play golf in college somewhere, or maybe they'll just do it recreationally. But we've created another golfer for a lifetime in that space, and we're helping kids across the Southland attend school and assist their parents and all those things. So to me, the foundation is very impactful, and there's a lot more opportunity in the space that we sit in. And then when you look at how do we fund it, and how do we support our golf tournaments and our education events and the foundation, that's when you pivot and you start looking at our partners and our sponsors and those those folks. And again, just like I'm trying to help out or encouraging the foundation to grow what it's doing, as you know, being a board member, I spent on the chapter level and the section level, I spent 10 years talking about the importance of partnerships and sponsors, and how we needed to treat our vendors and our the folks that we buy from and support us on a business level daily. That was a main focus of mine as well, and I've started to see that pay forward now. And a great way to evidence that is the purses that we've had, and some of the better golf courses that we've had, and just our educational efforts, because you just can't do all these things and have all this great opportunity without somebody sort of footing the bill, so to speak. And the way we approach it here in our section is that comes from many different resources, but without the support of all of our sponsors and vendors and partners, we wouldn't be able to accomplish what we've done, nor it would have been as great as it was. And that just needs to continue to push forward as people like me come up with new ideas and challenge section staff to make things better. It just costs more money, and we don't want it to come from our pockets if we can help ourselves.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're gonna go into we got to talk about the dues increase. We got to talk about the national dues increase, our section dues increase. We made the announcement at the annual meeting at Mission Hills in December. We've sent out some communications on that. Can you bring a little color and a little breakdown of the dues increase and the landscape surrounding that increase that's happening in June?
Yeah, I mean, if you just sort of lump them all together, it's sort of the same story. And first off, I just want to say, like, it's not lost on any of us that anytime you use the phrase, dues increase, or anytime we pick up a bill or go to a department store or the convenience store, the grocery store, and see that the cost of something that we utilize or done or enjoy has gone up, it doesn't really sit well with any of us. And I'm speaking on behalf of not only myself but our company, because we have we pay the dues of 8 or 9 PGA members and apprentices at Monarch, and it's just not an easy proposition. But the dues increase that we're witnessing, which is significant when you look on it on a percentage level, is first off, we haven't done it in like 20 plus years, whether it's our section or even national. And unfortunately, we're doing both at the same exact time, which I think is okay. But it's done in a way because we finally, even though we do have better foundation efforts, and we do have more fiscal responsibility within the section, and even though we have more partners, the cost of living and the cost of doing business in Southern California, unfortunately, just has outgrown our ability to create revenue. So there really was no way for us to pivot, at least on a section level, for us to continue to fund the activities that we have if we didn't actually look and lean into the membership. And again, just to paint a perspective, the membership hadn't had a dues increase for 20 years, but we have increased a lot of other things in the last 20 years, whether it's how much we charge a vendor or a partner to be have a relationship with the Southern California PGA, and unfortunately we've had to increase the cost to attend meetings. We've had to increase the cost of playing events. We've had to increase junior golf fees and whether it's at the per event fee or actually the sign up fee to be in our junior program. So eventually we couldn't keep charging everyone else. We actually had to finally look internally for a resource. And at the end of the day, John, I think it's important too for those in the section to know that our dues are just a minor and important, but just one of the 4 or 5 or 6 ways the section has to derive its revenue to then support its operations. And I can let people know that honestly, this whole exercise has been an eye opener for me. I think it's been an eye opener for Nikki Gatch, the section staff, the Allison and yourself. I think it's been an eye opener for the board. We had to take a holistic 360-degree approach at our operations, at our endowment fund, at our what we charge, how we do things, what we do and why we do it, the support we get from national, all those things. And I think the unfortunate thing is that unfortunately our dues have increased, but on the positive side is I don't think it's going to happen very frequently. And I do believe that we are in a much better financial position today than we were a year ago. And I can promise everybody that as we end 2024, if we continue to do the way we've addressed our financial and fiscal responsibility, we won't have to charge the members more, but there is the opportunity that the members will see better offerings and more improved financial stability in the section, so that for the next 20 years, we're going to be in a good spot. So the process was tough, but I do believe it'll pay itself forward at the end of the day.
And not to get too far into the weeds on our endowment, but as many members know and should know, when we sold PGA Golf Club in Beaumont in 2008, we basically started an endowment at that point of about $10 million. Can you talk a little bit about the strategy that you have, your leadership philosophy on what you would like to do with that endowment and see happen to that endowment over time?
Again, I'm just a spoke in the wheel, and I think it's the wheel's opinion that matters the most. But I think what we're going to see in regards to the endowment, which let's just say today it sits at, we'll use round numbers. Let's say it started at around 10 million and today it's worth 11 million, but it started 15, 20 years ago. And today it's kind of not worth the value it was when we started it. And that's the biggest issue in regards to the endowment is that is a thing that's supposed to pay off yearly, by decade and in perpetuity moving forward. And we needed to take a good hard look at that endowment, and we're not done with this process yet. We need to figure out ways to augment that endowment amount. We need to increase the amount of money that's inside of that endowment. And that's going to come from, on behalf of, either the foundation on one side of it, or also through operations for the section as a revenue generator on the other side. But we need to get that endowment into a position so that 20 years from today, those people who are in the position of deciding how much money to utilize from that endowment, and there are lots of restrictions on how you can use that money, but the money that's in that endowment, the value of that money has to be equal, if not greater than it is today, 20 years from today. And anybody who understands how that works is if it's at 10 or 11 million today, it's going to have to be at 20 million, 5 years from today, 7, 8 years from today, or it's just not going to have the same buying power it currently has. So we're gonna create a better plan for the endowment. We're going to find ways to increase and augment the endowment outside of just the natural growth it could potentially have based on the value of the funds and how we invest it. And then we're going to just make sure that there's very good transparency and a good game plan in place. So moving forward, we protect that endowment so that it does have the same positive effect in the future as it has had today, and as certainly as we've witnessed as it's done in the past.
Well, and agree completely with, the section and national. Our number one goal is the PGA member. That's who all of us in governance, whether at the chapter level, the section level, or the district or the national level, our number one focus is the PGA member. We've spent an inordinate amount of resources and effort, changing our logo and changing our brand to kind of separate us from the PGA Tour in light of the challenges that the tour has faced in our effort to separate from them on that. Can you talk a little bit about the emphasis that we have put on the PGA member? PGA members are compensated better now than they ever have been before. You look at the executive legs that PGA ExecuSearch and Advanced Search has gotten. Can you talk a little bit about the PGA member from your perspective here at the section?
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if you again, I think there's a lot of effort that was put forth in the last 10 years by some of the new people who work at the section, the board of the national, some of the new folks that work there, some of the people they brought in, including like John Easterbrook, for example, who was hired to be the chief membership officer of the PGA of America, whose sole purpose literally is like how to make our lives better, how to provide more value to our membership, and that type of like thinking and mentality. But again, the second of our PGA just took whatever momentum was coming out of national and embraced that within the section level. And as board members, that's what we're trying to do, is to continue that messaging. So I think whether if it's employment opportunities, I think right now we're in a really good space in Southern California. I don't think there's very few of us that are unemployed, or if we're unemployed, it's generally either based on our decision to be unemployed or because of something that maybe we did or shouldn't have done, and therefore we're just going to be unemployed until we can fix that and right that. But it's like you said, pay scales have improved, and certainly I think they have. It could be debatable, just like with our endowment, have they improved enough? They have improved, and I think we still have to work harder to make sure that we are all working collectively to try to help augment what all the benefits that we get, whether in the pay that we can earn. And we're seeing that across many different channels, whether it's how we teach at our clubs and what we charge for instruction, and how do we approach instruction to the point where we create more value so that we can charge more. The same thing at our golf clubs. How do we provide better service and a better quality of product, or how do we sell more retail so that we provide more value to our owners, our management companies, the board of directors, or the families that own our golf clubs. So this is a concerted effort to help all of us have more benefits, better benefits, more pay. And I think it's starting to pay forward, but there's still some room to go. And I don't know, I can't remember the second part of that question, but I think we're going to continue to push that messaging forward. And again, that's just a big focus of what the PGA of America and what the Southern California PGA does and accomplishes.
Just a little fact clear up. I just got a text from Tom Addis. When we sold the golf club in 2008, we got 8 million for it, not 10 million. So just back that up and strike that from the record.
I mean, there's so many things. First off, I'm glad that Tom is awake. And two, I'm super stoked that he's watching this, but I do claim that I know some stuff, but don't hold, there should be no, this is like a,
I'm actually the one that said it. He's correcting me.
Oh, because there's no, this is one of those things that I'm going to say a bunch of stuff and about half of it might be wrong, but I'm glad that the pundits are outside listening so they can chime in and tell me how poor I am.
Right.
It's all good.
Thanks, TA, for that. A quick shout out when we talk about employees here at the section that are putting the member first. Congratulations to Nikki Gatch on her first year as our executive director, and also some shout outs to some key team members that she has in Amberlynn Dorsey, Bryce Seaver, Steve Monday, and Anthony Leone, and even at our local national employees with Junko and the efforts of Ed Winecki. we would not have near the momentum that we have without the efforts of all those teammates. So kudos to all of those involved. Before we change gears and get into some talk about Eric's philosophy on the golf ball, what's happening with that, his philosophy on technology. I do see Eddie Rodarty has his hand up, and it's been up, forgive me, Eddie, it's been up for a while. Do you have a question for President Lohman? Going once.
He would have to, he has he's muted, so I don't think if he's going to come live, it'll.
I've asked him to unmute. Eddie? No? Yes?
Hey, John, while we're, oh, there's Eddie.
There he is.
Apologies, no, guys. I was moving around. I was looking at another screen. I don't have a question. I'm just so interested in what you guys are talking about. I apologize for hitting that button. Please forgive
That's
me.
okay. That's okay. I feel bad that I've been ignoring it this whole time. So thank you, Eddie, for being with us this morning, and thanks for all your efforts with junior golf. Okay, Eric, the golf ball. What's happening with the game? You know what? You can't talk about the litigation and the parameters of the technology involved in the golf ball and the driver as well. You know, what comes to mind is Don Ray. I mean, he vice president at National. He's got this quote that I think we should all know. It's like the PGA Tour are the few that play for millions, and the PGA member are the ones that help millions play. And that you know, I think he rehearsed that. He said that on the cuff, and I think it's one of the greatest things I've ever heard. But that's us in a nutshell.
Yeah, 110%. You know, like in regards to like the ball and like our efforts with the PGA of America to rebrand the PGA of America, it's just this conversation about, again, like what I talked about with the Southern California PGA and what's our position and expertise and how we're perceived as an association within the golfscape of Southern California, how important that is to me. But think about like on a national level, you have the USGA, you have the PGA Tour, and you have the PGA of America. Just speaking of those three, and we have other allied associations, obviously, and then there's like the Augusta National, which kind of sits on its own as the hierarchy of all of the cool parts of golf. But you know, in one vein, you know, we're trying to purposely create a marketing plan and initiative so that people in the golf space across the country and in Southern California clearly and definitively understand the difference between the two entities. And, you know, for us here as members of the PGA of America or associates, and we watch the PGA Tour on TV, you know, it's tough for me to think like other people don't think like I do sometimes. I mean, I clearly understand the difference, but I've also grown up with the game. But as we've layered in millions and millions and millions of new golfers, or as we've aged out some and we're bringing up some younger ones from the bottom up, you know, we have to do a really good job of making sure everybody understands who we are, what we do, and the impact that we have, and how valuable that really truly is. And that's the PGA's efforts with the rebranding in a nutshell. And I'm excited for that, not for the reasons of like, you know, because of the issue with the PIF and the PGA Tour of, you know, partnering with the Saudi Arabia and what that emotional impact is, or the effect that has, or those things. I'm just excited, me personally, because the efforts to do anything that promotes the PGA brand, the PGA of America brand, helps all of us individually. So I'm excited for that opportunity. And then when it comes to like the USGA's their role, or their so-called role, or the role that they've tried to, the niche they've created, you know, my perspective of that might not be the same as many others, and it could be. I don't know. This is just my perspective. This has not been shared to me by the national board of directors or the executive committee or the leadership. But you know, I always find it kind of interesting. Like, we all know, and like you quoted Don Ray about the we don't play for millions of dollars, we get millions to play the game of golf. But we literally are the gatekeepers of enjoyment, excitement, fun, passion, the love of the game of golf. That's what we really are. If you want to define who we are, we're the ones who make it fun. We're the ones who introduce it. We're the ones who run it. And we're the ones who bring the smiles to the people's faces. That's simply and literally what we do. Do we have the Ryder Cup? Yes. Do we have the PGA Championship and some of those other great events like the KPMG and the KitchenAid event and all those great things? Of course. But the tour runs lots and lots of events. So, but our goal and our objective and what we really do accomplish is we bring joy to the game of golf. And what is the USGA doing? Well, among other things, it's spending a lot of time and effort to I don't know, whether it's like change the grooves in our wedges, outlaw us being able to anchor the putter or use long putters effectively. And now it looks like we're going to make a concerted effort to roll back the golf ball, which eventually will impact us as we play, us PGA members, as we play the Sherwoods and the Hillcrests and the section championship. I'm going to start hitting the ball shorter. That's wonderful news. And then it's going to roll down into our clubs and into our golfers. And it just, to me, seems kind of counterintuitive to what we do, as because we're bringing joy and introducing people to the game of golf. And then on the flip side, we're gonna make things limiting and kind of challenging and confusing for the general populace of the game of golf. You know, eventually, I would hope that the PGA of America embraces this opportunity and almost just stands up and just says, "Hey, listen. If you want to roll the ball back, go ahead and do it where you want to do it and when you want to do it. But as the PGA of America stands, we're not going to roll the ball back, and we're going to encourage all of our members to do whatever the heck they want, however they want. And we're going to sell whatever we think will sell. And we're just going to promote people hitting it farther, longer, straighter. We're going to give them lessons to help them do it. But I'm not going to negatively impact the juniors, the seniors, those who don't hit it 340 yards, or even us who go out and play just so we can have the game of golf." I just think, to me, it's a little counterproductive to what I believe is our intrinsic brand and our efforts, which is to bring enjoyment to the game of golf. And that's my opinion.
Well, thank you, sir. Andy Tooney's question has been answered. Tom Addis had a question. Kind of a general question. You've touched on a lot of it, but if we could make another run at this. How do you value your presidency, especially with the leadership position of the section with the PGA and the game and the business of golf?
Sorry, the question is, how do I hold the value?
How do you value your presidency in terms of the section, the PGA, the game, and the business of golf?
I think I understand the question. I mean, I value, again, I value the opportunity, and I value, and I think I will value it even more once I'm done and I can reflect back on kind of what we were able to accomplish. Again, just to reiterate, I valued the effort I made when I was involved with the Metro chapter, and I valued when I just became a board member, and I value a lot of different things. But to me, it's just engagement. Like, I value the opportunity to be engaged so that I understand fully, at least as much as I possibly can, what the SCPGA and what the National PGA does for me, how I can take advantage of those opportunities, and just to enjoy the camaraderie and the friendships that I've made over the years within our section, whether it's section staff, our vendors and partners, our members or associates. To me, that's invaluable. So hopefully that answers that question the way it was intended.
Thanks for that one, TA. Nikki Pritchard had a question. What strategies do you employ to effectively navigate and address differences in opinions amongst board members, ensuring a cohesive and productive decision-making process for the betterment of the section? How do you mitigate?
That is a great question.
And Nick, it's interesting. Nikki Pritchard, not to put her on the spot, but she sent me that question, and I think she had a conversation with Tom's son after that, and then sent another question that was really kind of basic, and basically said disregard the first question; it was too deep. I think the first question is fantastic. I had to ask. You're sending it in, Nikki.
Well, I mean, again, I think it's a thing that people who have in a leadership capacity have to balance involvement, engagement, and in being like directive, I guess, or because there is there is like, again, if you're president or, eventually you are like the top of that sort of communication chain. And if you're going to be at the top of a communication chain, you certainly want to be able to communicate kind of what you want to communicate, or how you want to communicate it. So there's there's a proper balance of making sure that the philosophical movement within an association moves the direction you want it to. And that just is like that's more, to me, that's, I guess, more selfish in that regard. But you also can't really succeed in these positions. And it certainly would not be a recommended approach in any of these types of positions if you were like a dictator, or you didn't involve other people, or didn't acknowledge what other people were doing, like a Nikki Pritchard, a Tom Sun, a John Kulo. I mean, we can go down there's so many people within our section who you not only want to hear their voice, you want to hear their opinion, but you want to adapt whatever macro idea you might have, or the section might have, to involve what they can offer, because my lens is just my lens. It's not the lens of many. What is more powerful, the lens of one or the lens of 1,500? So my challenge is to try to get as much perspective as possible, as much opinions as possible. But then it ultimately, as the president, there sometimes has to be like a decision, and you could have 4 options or 3 options, and you got to pick the best one for the section, which might not be the best one for everyone else, but it's the best one based on your intrinsic opinion that the core group of the section would want. So the biggest challenge in that is to involve as many people as possible, but then make sure that the direction keeps pushing the messaging of the majority. And that's my goal. And it's how I kind of roll or do things at the clubs I'm involved with, or especially Monarch Beach Golf Links, and how we run our club. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, I think that was a wonderful answer. As we approach the end of our hour, do you have any, there's no hands raised. This is kind of a last call for questions. But Mr. Lohman, do you have one last message for the membership before we sign out today?
Again, I'm just like I say, the chief volunteer, right? I'm the chief volunteer of the section, and I will be for about 310 more days. And when that ends, I'm gonna do my best to hold my head high, appreciate and thank everyone that's been involved. But most importantly, like we just discussed 3 minutes ago, it's my objectives and goals are simply just trying to get as many people as involved and engaged. Try to make things just a little bit better, and let's have a lot of fun this year and in years moving forward. I'm doing everything I can within the constraints of the time I'm allowed, and the voice that I have to help everyone in the section. I hope you realize that and know that. I'm thankful for this opportunity. I wasn't always gung-ho about being the president. I don't always have like the world's greatest day or think this was the best decision. But I'm super engaged. I'm extremely pleased with what we're doing. I'm very excited to finish out my tenure. And as I do things in my professional life, my personal life, and in my Southern California PGA life, I do it with the member and associate of the Southern California PGA in mind. And I'm just glad that there's a lot of my friends that are coming along for the ride. And I just cherish this opportunity. So thank you.
So we do have to circle back on something here. You are the president during the centennial celebration year of the Southern California PGA. 1924 was our inception year. Here we are, 2024. What can you share with us about this year's centennial celebrations?
Well, first off, I mean, a lot of kudos and credit have to go to the past presidents of our section and the people who have been in our section the longest, because this is being led by a committee, Andy Tooney and Tom Sargent and, obviously TA, Tom Addis and Jeff Johnson and the folks. This is really a celebration of all of us, but this is being chaired by them. I'm just, like I said, the chief volunteer who gets the pulpit, but we're going to have a good time. I was a 3-time social chair of my fraternity. I understand the importance of a good time. I'm just there to support the committee's efforts, and I know that we have a lot of cool things that are on the docket for us to celebrate our 100 years. It's been an amazing 100 years, but that information is coming forth from the committee, and just know that I'm here to champion everything that we do. And the culmination may or may not be the event that we're going to do at Hillcrest and Rancho Park, but I'm involved with that as well. I'm going to play in it. I'm going to award the trophy. It might most likely won't come to me, but I hope to make the cut, and I hope to be maybe in the conversation somewhere. But it's just such a neat thing that we're going to be at two of our founding clubs at the section championship in the heart of Los Angeles. I mean, that's going to be a special moment for all of us, especially those that are engaged in that committee. And whether you're winning, playing, or whatever, I just know that these events are, and we're encouraged to invite everybody out. And I do want to say one last thing. Len Canet, who is the sweetest, nicest, old golf pro, the oldest living member of the Southern California PGA, who I just had the fortune to be a part of his lunch awards presentation because he's an honorary life member now, was at Virginia Country Club. And I'm going to... It's just cool.
Indeed. Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Well, President Lohman, you have the distinct honor of being George Washington's Rutherford B. Hayes, as Jack Malley was our first president of the Southern California section in 1924. And here we are 100 years later, and you're our 50th president, I think 50th. I'm sure TA is going to
41st.
41st. The text is coming in from TA right now. 41st president of the Southern California PGA. For all the PGA members that are on this morning's webcast, you will get 1 PDR credit for joining the Presidential State of the Union. President Lohman, thank you very much for sharing your insight and your thoughts. And have a great day, everybody. Have a great 2024, and we'll see you all soon.